Jeff Sheehy.
It seems to help. That's what we're trained to do.
I spent years working on LGBT civil rights issues and HIV issues. I was a member of ACT UP Golden Gate for ever and ever. I was the first openly HIV positive office holder in the history of San Francisco. I grew up in Texas. I was living in Austin and needed to leave. I mean, everybody that I had come out with was slowly dying. It's AIDS. And I just watched what was a fairly transient community of college-age kids slowly disappear. And I ended up coming out to San Francisco because it was San Francisco or New York or, what have you. And I had a friend here, so I ended up in San Francisco. I was a bike messenger for a couple of years. Eventually got into politics. I volunteered and then got a job with the Kathleen Brown for governor campaign. Got me connected with the LGBT political community. From there, I became vice president of the Harvey Milk Democratic Club and then president of the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club. When I was president of the Harvey Milk Club, that's when we came together with the idea for the Equal Benefits Ordinance, which said that if you contract with the city, you have to give domestic partners of employees the same benefits as you give your spouses of employees. And that really was the beginning of my career in politics here. I met Gilbert in 1996, not long after I was elected Milk Club president. My friend Carol Stewart, who was one of the co-authors of the Equal Benefits Ordinance, she was working for Senator Milton Marks, got me together with a few folks from our sex workers caucus in the Harvey Milk Club, and Scarlett Harlett was there, and it was collectively decided that I needed to meet Gilbert. And so we came to the Castro. Of course, Gilbert shows up in all of his splendor, and we hit it off immediately. The fun thing is you were in the Castro, you could just walk down the street and be a who's who of activists still out there. About once a month you'd hear the drums beating, out of the bars into the streets, and we could throw 500 to 1,000 people together in 15 minutes for anything. It was activist central. Dennis Peron and the medical cannabis movement hanging out down the street here on 17th Street. Margot St. James, who was the founder of Coyote, Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics, which was the first and most prominent sex worker liberation movement. It was a heartbreaking place to be in the 90s, because people were dying. But it was also so much fun, because what people miss, and I think we've never really recovered, is just how much fun politics can be. You get laid, you have a big time, you had people like Gilbert who are impresarios. I mean, the theater, the political theater, the genius, the creativity, from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, to the rainbow flag, to the AIDS memorial quilt. It's genius. And who wouldn't want to be part of that great circus that created massive social change? Some people, Gilbert rubbed a little raw because Gilbert was always, one idea after another and was incredibly demanding. I thought, this is the greatest guy I've ever met. I mean, he was such a mentor and the energy was just electric. And I said yes to everything he ever asked me to do, everything he ever thought about doing. If we could do it, we were going to do it. So I hung out with him a bit, and the first thing we did is we went down to Dennis Peron's Emporium on Market Street, which is right by Market in Van Ness, 5 stories of people smoking pot. It was the biggest, best cannabis club in the country. And they were running Prop 215 out of there, which was the Medical Cannabis Act, legalized medical cannabis. I would say 2/3 of the people there were living with AIDS and on their way out. It was virtually a hospice for people with HIV.
I'm not going silently into the night. I will be dragged into that building. I am fighting for your rights, for any medicine you have in the sunset of your life. I'm here to protect you, and if they arrest me, they are arresting you. Yeah.
Mostly, if I'm going to eat it, I probably would eat it in a cookie form, usually brownie. Or sometimes I might make something special like pancakes, but usually I smoke it. I prefer to smoke it.
One floor there was this beautiful mural, which I guess has been painted over, that Gilbert had done in the middle of this place. And it was a place just absolutely filled with love and compassion, because so many people in that place had AIDS, at least half, 2/3, maybe even 3/4. A lot of people were dying. A lot of people were alone because people that they'd known and loved were dead. And they came there for community, and they'd be there from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And I wonder just how many people over the years are still with us because they had the solace, the community, the cannabis actually, that helped keep them together long enough for the medications to come in. So in 1996 was when the results of the first research were published that showed that triple drug combination therapy, the infamous cocktails, could save people's lives. And so, you know, beautiful place. Gilbert gave me the tour, got me engaged with 2015. The funny thing was I wouldn't smoke pot because I'd stopped smoking pot in college. So people were passing me joints all the time. I was like, no pot. So that really started my collaboration with Gilbert. Along the way of cooking up schemes with Gilbert and planning and participating in all the different activities and protests and marches, Gilbert was regaling me not just with this history of the mile-long rainbow flag in New York, but some of the things he really wanted to do. And one of the things he had talked to me about was erecting this beautiful flagpole here with the giant rainbow flag. Really amazing how much thought Gilbert had put into it. Like, he showed me the spot. It's aligned perfectly with the ferry building at the foot of Market, which is a major San Francisco landmark. So if you stand behind the flag and you look directly east, you will see it lined on a direct line. So you are with the ferry building. And so he had picked out the spot. He'd identified a flagpole that was lying in a DPW lot, leftover, Department of Public Works, left over from the United Nations signing here in San Francisco right after World War II, when they had, you know, dozens and dozens of flagpoles flying flags from countries around the world at Civic Center, at UN Plaza downtown by City Hall. So he'd found a flagpole. He'd done the calculations on weight and how much weight could be tolerated by this particular platform. He knew who had to give approval, right? He did some wind calculations based on the size of the flag, how much weight, how much anchorage. So he had the entire thing planned and scoped. He and I are at the Castro Street Fair, and we're looking around and we're oogling the boys and, you know, just having our big old fun time, when who do we see approaching us? Willie Brown, Mayor Willie Brown, who was one of the more dramatic, one of the more powerful mayors that we've ever had in San Francisco history. And Willie had a particular passion for public art. So Gilbert corners him. And, you know, Mayor Brown stops. I'm president of the Harvey Milk Club, is arguably the most powerful LGBT, you know, political organization in town, certainly the most famous at that time. So we pigeonholed Willie, and Gilbert launches right into it. You know, just whatever we were talking about, we got Willie, he nailed him, and I guess Gilbert saw this was his chance. And I'm sitting there like, you know, backup singer to Gilbert, as Gilbert completely sells Willie Brown on the idea of a giant rainbow flag at Castro and Market. And you can just see Willie's mind moving, and Gilbert's explaining it and saying it won't be that much money, it'll be easy, I got it all arranged, and going detail by detail that he has already mapped out. And after about 5 or 10 minutes of seriously pitching the mayor, who has hordes of people trying to get at him because, you know, this is the magic mayor, right? Willie Brown kind of stops, kind of nods his head, turns to one of his aides and says, "Make it happen." And amazingly, if you can imagine, this was the first week in October. We had this flag fully erected, the flags sewn, right? Within 6 weeks. This was ready for the 20th anniversary of the election of Harvey Milk to the Board of Supervisors, the historic election of Harvey Milk. Whatever obstacle was in the way melted like a block of ice in the Texas sun, where I grew up in Texas. It just evaporated. There wasn't any obstacle that could not be overcome. We had this beautiful, beautiful ceremony here with everybody who'd been elected after Harvey, every LGBT office holder. We could all trace our lineage back to him. And that's the story. It was Gilbert's it was his planning, it was his precision, it was his organization, and it was his passion and ability to convince Willie Brown this was the thing to do. Certainly erecting this made it a powerful symbol for the community here. And it wasn't necessarily associated with any segment of the community. It seemed to embrace everybody.
The rainbow is a natural flag. It's a piece of the sky, so it fits there in the sky perfectly. And what I liked about the symbolism of the rainbow, because it fits us, it's all the colors. It's lasted because it represents all the genders, it represents all the races, everything. It's the rainbow of humanity.
I like the idea that each color would represent a kind of element of everyone's life, red for life, and all down through the spectrum, the orange for the healing, and the yellow for the sun, and obviously the green for nature, and the blue for serenity, and the purple for the spirit.
So what gets lost, I think, a little bit sometimes with Gilbert's story is how multifaceted he was. Gilbert was an artist. Gilbert was a flag maker, a vexillographer, I think is how you say it. He was a political activist. And in a way, this flagpole is the ultimate monument because it is a work of art. And to the day he died, Gilbert wanted people to view this as a work of art, which is why people can't change it, they can't move it. This is a work of art first and foremost. This is the masterpiece for Gilbert's artistic career. It is a beautiful, amazing flag. It is the rainbow flag. And it's always amazed me how powerful it is globally. He was both a leader and a supporter of every activity that could be taken to advance LGBT civil rights, to advance, for want of a better word, hippie rights. A community that's based on love, that's based on solidarity and compassion. And that was the great thing about Gilbert, was that he never, even to the day he died, he never ceased fighting, driving towards that light. I really consider myself lucky, blessed by the goddess to have known Gilbert in all of these different guises, right? I'm not an artist, but I knew one when I saw one. I'm not a flag maker, but I get the power of the flag, and I've sat there in Gilbert's workshop as he's sewing and looking at miles and miles of flag that are there, and all the different ways in which he would make the rainbow flag. And really was remarkable and special to be able to share that with him. And he taught me more than almost anybody else.